The main thing is hiding in plain sight. Today we will translate a short 1.5 minutes, a video from our foreign friends, how they understand the symbolism of the logo, FIFA 2025. In the logo of this cup is the ancient world order, and such as it really is. In order to make it easier for you to navigate, I will voice the voice behind the scenes. That is, the voice of our foreign friends Ilon and Vadim will voice the voices on the FIFA stage. So let's start translating. Hey, let's look at this new FIFA cup. Apparently it looks like a concave Earth. Let's see.
Gentlemen, could you lend me a piece?
We've got some drums or similar instruments.
Create something. We're awaiting this build-up.
Wow.
Incredible. Stunning, Jan. Thanks for joining, Ronaldo, and for presenting this magnificent cup.
All right, we have a concave Earth here. Let me turn those rings on. The cup turns out to be spinning, indeed so. We have this basically what you see when you look at this cup. Let me turn on the celestial sphere. That's all your cup. They have our aether pictured in the center. It's contained in both the celestial sphere and the cup. And they both have these rings around it, like in the movie Game of Thrones. And it's all identical to the 3 variants of this cup in the celestial sphere and Game of Thrones. Or see it all closely, or in decent translation. Now, you know that many cosmological motifs are depicted in this cup, and on the cup itself are depicted. And it is also very interesting that in the center of this scene above this cup is depicted a certain Tibloko, from whom such crystal spheres emanate. I think it will be useful to refresh the memory of this pattern. The next clip is from Lord Stephen, voiced by Shamansky. Vadim Russos Boots.
The answer to this question lies deep within the glass. One only needs to peer into its depths and admire the mesmerizing surroundings. The day is always formed. Glare, and not only in a glass, but also in any other container that has retroreflective properties on the scale of the entire universe. Sunlight spreads in a similar way. It emanates from the sun in a fan-like manner. And I explore how the sphere of the universe aligns with the magnetic field's lines of force in Johann Lang's book. 38, Godot called the theory of the sex of the world in it is not about the nonsense that the Earth is supposedly spherical, but the sphere of this sex and beyond is life's sun. A book about everything. Life comes from hollow. Who is interested in a book in German? The translation link is attached. There is in this book illustration, which is now shown on the screen, the sphere of the universe, the shell of the Earth, and in the center, the star sphere. The celestial sphere encompasses everything visible in the night sky. First time here. Faced with this theory, there may be a fair bewilderment. Why is this all that we see in the night sky? It is a small sphere in the center of the Earth. When we see the celestial space with our own eyes, the appearance of things is that this is the result of non-rectilinear propagation of light. On the screen, illustration of history. The book shows the shell of the Earth's stellar center. Sphere and from. The stellar sphere of the Earth is shown lines. These lines are how light propagates. Such propagation of light has been experimentally proven. Therefore, the stellar sphere at the center of the universe stretches over the entire celestial space, and for the observer on Earth, the sensation of a dome-shaped sky is formed. Volt. This is why returning to the previous illustration shows the shell of the Earth at the center of the stellar sphere, and the magnetic field lines shown respectively. Solar rays propagate according to these magnetic lines. Fields, that is. They spread in a fan-like manner, encircling a significant part of the universe in internal space. What kind of rays? Some things fall to the ground. They go around. Is it in the same book? Illustration where the author shows how they are formed. The phases of the months inside the sphere of the universe, apparently the shell of the universe, the center of the stellar sphere, and under the letter C is the sun, revolving in orbit. Spheres of stars emit solar rays that spread out in a fan-shaped manner. How do they show it? Magnetic lines of force. Fields are part of the rays. These rays descend to Earth. A portion encircles the universal sphere in internal space, particularly from the illuminated side facing the source. Converges and forms. Defense is an empty space. Base. There is a similar scheme, only brighter. From American Stephen Christopher. Complete. The shell of the center of the stellar sphere along the orbit of the star. The spheres rotate. The sun's extended voci create a comparable glare visible in materials like certain types of glass. On the opposite side of the sun, a funnel-shaped convergence forms. This funnel needs to be imagined as conical and, of course, three-dimensional. How she shows it? Volume 2. If the month fell into the funnel, it means a lunar eclipse. If the month passed near the funnel or sweat or over the funnel, then the full phase of the month in this area is the greatest convergence of light. So it is illuminated entirely if the month covered himself. The sun corresponds to a solar eclipse from the wandering of the moon to the propagation of the solar rays. It is partially illuminated, thereby changing its. The phases also illuminate those objects, which we are on, planets of the planet. They rotate in orbit. Stellar spheres being behind the sun at certain times. Conditions in the area. The funnel could potentially refract red-orange hues onto the moon. Being in this area, it is painted in the appropriate color. It is also worth noting that an additional solar catalyst, the light is, located hundreds of kilometers from the surface of the Earth glass Celestial. I'm aware of the sphere and understand its nature. It sounds, but at the height, and it is a sphere of the pocket line, there is a glass sphere by nature. All optical. Phenomena is glass. The nature of that? What is called gravitational lensing is the glass sphere nature of megacreamors, huge pebbles of ice. Layer of ice, which sometimes the greenhouse effect breaks off and falls to the ground in huge pebbles, and the atmosphere itself, as it is, exists thanks to the glass sphere. At the height of 100 kilometers are all reflected. Bounces off like glass from an invisible screen. The sphere facilitates the solar rays interaction. Light, it strengthens those faithful ones. Rays that surround. The sphere of the universe grants access to deeper inner space, transcending its bounds. How they reflect. From her, well, even if she did. This sphere was absent. Even with a vast spread of sunlight, the entire universe governed by a massive magnetic field would ensure continuity. And everything works. According to this field, an experiment was conducted using theodolite and measuring rulers. Reference attached, which proved that. The light is always continuous. Various things bend up. Time of day and in different weather conditions. Conditions bends with different intensity, but it always bends, and in the upward direction. The sun's rays are intricately bent and shaped to align perfectly. It all fits. Magnetic field lines of force.
Let me share a glimpse of the Canadian Meteor Orbital's radar, generously illustrating the essence of our planet. Two mutually arranged pyramids forming an octahedron. The picture shows the location of the octahedron in the shell. This is the same starry sphere, the sky vault, the ancient sky vault, which we often see in the most prominent place in various archives, in sculptures, paintings, and symbolism. But so little has been written about him. Both pyramids must have magnetic properties. This is the root cause of attraction and the fact that light bends upward, which has been experimentally proven. Light is always drawn into the center of our world. The Coulomb force is the force of attraction. If the charge signs are different, and the force of repulsion, if the charges are the same. Given that the pyramids do not connect to each other, their charge signs are the same and not from each other, repel between the pyramids is zero. Zero magnetism. Absolute balance, magnetic balance, where energy from the entire inner world egg is concentrated. This is clearly shown by the aroid model, according to the principle of which energy circulates inside our world from the center. Everything comes, and to the center, to the starting point, everything returns a closed system, where in the center everything is processed and concentrated for the next cycle. Energy does not come from anything and therefore does not disappear anywhere. Why in the center? Because there, zero magnetism is perfect balance. Energy concentrating in the center. This energy can be summed up in two words. For those to whom electric matter has become an orphan does not mean anything at all. Orphan is a nuclear-free, structureless, multidimensional, indivisible elementary particle with an electroatom having the shape of a sphere. Thus, there must be an invisible concentration of Sirod's energy between the pyramids. These are the same two pyramids, between which the energy concentration in Siroda is zero. What exactly is the reason why pyramids have magnetic properties? There is such a physicist, David Lapointe. He has a theory of the prime field. Despite an apparently rudimentary design, two through-hole bowls, they reveal extraordinary magnetic field emission capabilities, unveiling matter's basic composition. I'll show you a few episodes from one video by David Lapointe, a vacuum flask in the middle of which these very bowls are fixed in the center. Various purge gases, argon, hydrogen and helium are fed between the bowls. The gas is not dispersed throughout the bulb, but is concentrated in the center between the cups, forming a core of glow, which in a moment is converted to plasma and pushed out in jets up and down through their holes. After adjusting the exposure settings, we get their conforming geometry. Seen surprisingly similar to the nebula red square, we see the cup-shaped shape of magnetic fields. For example, the architecture of the CERN building in Geneva is bowl-shaped with a hole at the top. The author, by the way, made a bowl modeled on the CERN dome. Pay attention. The bowls in the vacuum chamber not only formed plasma and spherical glow between themselves, but they also formed a plasma equatorial disk around this luminous core and also plasma emissions along the axis. And here's another dome. It is also worth noting that any correct geometric shape is a concentrator or diffuser of the energy of the pyramid. Dome cones. Well, you get the point. Steel non-magnetic balls are held in the center of the bowl by weight. This is some kind of new levitation. See for yourself. Cup-shaped magnetic field emitters cause non-magnetic spheres to form a race. The only thing that holds the balls is the magnetic fields emanating from the bowls. The cup-shaped magnetic field induces a magnetic field in each steel ball, which causes them to repel each other and at the same time hold the balls together. A symmetrical and balanced pattern emerges, inspired by the familiar drawings of the fractal universe. Steel balls persistently comply with the algorithm of the universe and brazenly spit in the left eye of all those who argue us about the theory of the Big Bang in absolute chaos. And the sawdust showing magnetic field lines of force correspond to the field of gravitational emitters, bowl and ball in its hole. This is something with something. As soon as the balance of the balls in the bowl is disturbed, it is intensively pushed out as from a pneumatic gun, but it is more of an electromagnetic gun. So, in the world, everything is arranged according to the fractal algorithm. 369 from small to large, everything is intertwined. The macro world is similar to the micro world and vice versa. To infinity, there must be some basic pattern in the macro world, from which a fractal chain follows. It is quite reasonable to assume that in the center of the sphere of the firmament between the two pyramids, there are these cup-shaped emitters of the magnetic field. These cups are between them zero magnetism, where energy from all over the world is concentrated. This energy, thanks to cup-shaped emitters, is formed into a plasma substance. As was shown in the fragmentation episodes, first a gas nucleus appeared, which after a moment formed into plasma. On both sides of the intestine-shaped emitters are mutually located pyramids. Through the holes of the bowls, plasma radiation is directed into them. This is why the octoad has magnetic properties, because the energy is attracted to the center, and from there it dissipates into pyramids. And this concentration cannot exist without this object. In general, the concentration between the pyramids exists, and it is thanks to these objects and their properties that there is zero in the middle. It's just a concentration of energy in orphans. In the center of the sphere is some invisible clot of energy, the same as what surrounds us, just its concentration there, and this concentration is converted into plasma. Remove these objects and this clot will disperse. So let's remember the episode when thyristor-shaped emitters formed a plasma equatorial disk around the nucleus, transferring this to the scale of the entire world. We get the zero parallel, the Earth's equator, respectively. One pyramid is located on one hemisphere, the other on the other, and there is a magnetic equilibrium between them. On a global scale, I repeat, we get a geostationary orbita located on the Earth's Decatur 0-degree latitude, above which hang satellites. Cup-shaped magnetic field emitters also justify the toroidal flow of energy inside the world egg. Electromagnetic levitation is one large toroid, which is mentioned in the mythology of different peoples, and this image is closely related to the fractal nature of the universe, where the universe builds its nesting dolls according to a certain algorithm. All energy flows according to these structures. Whether it is a human energy field, whether it is a magnetic field or any other natural creation, everything in the universe has a certain order and no chaos in the void. This is important to understand. As well as the secondary flow of energy. As I said above, we find ancient symbols, some of the most ancient symbols, which Bulgaria brutally turned into information weapons on the principle of dividing and ruling. These two symbols are nothing more than a two-dimensional illustration of the exit of energy from the center of the toroidal flow of energy and the return of this same energy to the center. In order to clarify how this happens, I added a spiral inside the torus. And what we see is that the red spiral rotates counterclockwise. That is, denotes the output of the converted energy from the center of the torus, but the blue part of the spiral rotates clockwise. And denotes the return of energy to the center of the torus, you see now? Energy does not disappear anywhere and does not appear from the void. It spins in infinity, and our ancestors knew from the flow of energy and about the fractal nature of the universe. We can observe these symbols all over the world from the time when the world was still unified and based on knowledge. Those same ancestors who built megalithic eternal structures, so Principe knew perfectly well that our world is one big toroide, that nothing is accidental, and the universe builds its nesting dolls, obeying a great algorithm. And putting these grains of truth together, it becomes explainable why light energy radio waves continuously bend upwards according to the triangular circulation, is attracted to the center of the world and emanates back. Our world is one big magnetic field, the stellar sphere, the Earth's shell, and the magnetic field lines of force. Recalling the above-mentioned image of the Canadian Meteor Orbitals radar, we see that the upper pyramid is more distinct, pronounced than the lower. Presumably inside this octohedral system is a jet pillar, figuring in the Egyptian theme. Through it, the energy from the center, from the point of zero magnetism, rises to the northern apex of the octahedron. The northern apex of the octahedron is the most pronounced pyramid. It is located in the northern hemisphere. Its peak was directed towards the very center of a once existing continent called Hyperborea. Its geographical location and structure were related to this. The jet in the octahedron converts energy from the center of zero into energy to power the sun. The jet concentrates energy at the top of the North Pyramid and through electromagnetic coupling. This energy stream then feeds through the sun collimator, a mechanism that produces parallel light rays or beams. Among ancient Greek images, it is not uncommon to see a jet pole, similar to an insulator or something close to the process of transmitting electric current. Nikola Tesla explored microbial electricity, a method harmless to body tissues while harnessing unique microbial energy. There is no doubt that jet and ang are related to electricity. In ancient Egyptian mythology, the symbol of Osiris represents his spine. According to legend, the spine of Osiris after its dissection was installed vertically. This is the Egyptian symbol of Jet Osiris, the wife of Yesides and brother of Nephthys on the fresco. Below they protect the pillar jet with their wings. In this composition can be traced metaphorically the personification of the throne of the universe, whose figure is expressed by the wings of Yesida and Nephthys octahedron, inside which the jet, forming at its top energy clusters. The wings show an octahedral shape inside the Jeep, and at its top an energy concentration below a Tesla transformer that can distribute energy over a distance without wires. Apparently, the jet forms an energetic cluster at its apex, as shown in the ancient images of the jet combined with the sunham, on the apex of which is a sphere resembling the sun. From this energy concentration, the energy comes to the cathode, which is the sun jet is the onon, and the sun is the cathode jet, the transmitters of energy, the solar receiver. A triangular circulation of light energy within our world is traced from the 0 point of the center. The energy through the jet rises to the top of the North Pyramid, concentrates into the hearth and electromagnetic connection, descending to the solar collimator. From that sun, the light propagates in a fan-like manner, as shown by the lines of force of the magnetic field. Here are the lines of force, here is a fan, the sun's rays spread similarly, because thanks to the cup-shaped emitters of the magnetic field and the two pyramids in the center inside our world, everything circulates according to the lines of force of the magnetic field. We live in the middle of one big magnetic field. Next, the light envelops part of the sphere and returns, same place where I came from, and it all looks like a triangular circulation. Try to understand the structure of the cyclic world, how much the sun gives. So much it receives a closed cyclic system. On one hemisphere, day on the other, night on the screen, the extreme points illuminating the surface of the Earth. Here further rays go beyond the lunar sphere, where the air the light allowed is not scattered there, and with our perceived spectrum of vision, we can see only scattered light. If she goes up to a height and looks at the sun, she will see a simple white spot with no rays without scattering, something like this. But when these invisible rays encounter resistance in the form of object to object, their energy is transmitted and they are illuminated. This is how the moon and objects called planets of the solar system are illuminated. The illustration depicts the faces of the moon, which wanders in this fan spread of the sun's rays. When the moon is in darkness, it is not visible when it covers the sun, a solar eclipse. And in between, the moon changes its phases, illuminating partially or completely, returning again to the picture. We see that from the left to the right and above some special concentration at the top is the focus of the northern apex of the octahedron left and right, the convergence and divergence of the energy of the toroidal circulation. And at the bottom, the return of energy to the starting point for recycling under reasonable assumptions. The Sun is a parabolic disk in a hemisphere with a dark backside, taking on the electromagnetic connection from the octahedron from the SZHDA in the general appearance of the device. The rotation of the Sun is affected by the magnetic octahedron. It contributes to the gradual spiral motion of the Sun in the orbit of the firmament to the extreme points, which are the northern tropic and the southern Sun. Spirally shifts between these extreme points, reaching them every 6 months when the Sun is in the Teraka Trail. Then at the North Pole there will be 24-hour days, and at the South Pole there will be 20 Eurofour Cake.